Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is tragic and graphic and causes the kind of combative feelings that make it something you have to experience for yourself. Death has become too much of a norm for Vicaria. Her mother was shot, her brother Chris was shot, and her father Donald is now working two jobs to make ends meet and is doing drugs to cope with his grief. Luckily, Vicaria hasn't fallen into dismay as she keeps up with her brother's girlfriend Aisha, who is pregnant with her eventual niece and nephew, plus there is Jada. Jada is not only Aisha's little sister, but also a little kid who Vicaria is a bit of a role model towards. But while things in the neighborhood are rough, with a silver lining, for Vicaria, school is very much different. Thanks to ignorant teachers who can barely manage someone like Vicaria with a ferocious curiosity regarding death, school isn't necessarily a safe place for her, even if it is a predominantly white institution. But even with a 3.9 GPA, school isn't Vicaria's focus. Her focus is curing death, even if it means unethical experiments using the body shot down in her neighborhood. So the first notable performance for us is Amani Sama, who brings a bit of a horror vibe to the film. And I would say originally when you meet Sama, she's just this cute and precocious child who sometimes has an attitude, but one that fits the moment and her age. However, as the movie goes from sort of being like a sci-fi drama to adding horror elements, Sama brings a sort of creep factor to Jada, which almost makes you think she is some kind of puppet master getting revenge on people who put her in timeout or said something wrong to her. So the next notable performance comes from, hopefully I'm saying her name right, Lea Delone Hayes. And if you've seen The Equalizer, there was never a doubt that Hayes is meant for big things. Alongside Queen Latifah and Lorraine Toussaint, she has always held her own in giving both a performance fitting of the kid in her family's household and being established as an individual who isn't just coming of age but going through trauma, joy, love, and so much more. Now, as Vicaria, love, in a romantic sense, is absent, but we do see other life-altering moments and feelings regarding her journey. Whether it is the frustration of a teacher who refuses to pronounce her name correctly and even dare to try to give her a nickname that was not approved. We also have the basic layers of just generally feeling like an outsider because with her going to a predominantly white institution, she's kind of foreign to the neighborhood, but at the same time, as much as she may connect with Aisha and Jada and people know her around, she's still kind of seen as that nerd kid who goes to the white school. And of course, with her going to a predominantly white school, so comes the question if she wants to be or act white, even from the mouth of babes like Jada, which of course further alienates somebody named which of course further alienates Vicaria. But to balance things out, as much as you can see there's a lot going on with her in terms of two family members dying violently, her father being a functioning drug addict, and just a desire to make death become a disease and not the end, there's also some form of joy. Hayes figures out a way to make it so that Vicaria's story isn't something that just feels downtrodden and the worst is going to keep happening to her. She balances the positive things by really giving us a beautiful relationship with Aisha or even Jada, and even making it so, as much as her experiments may be unethical, there is the hope that they can actually be fruitful. And it's in giving us this balance of someone who's experienced trauma and lives in an environment that isn't necessarily safe, yet she isn't broken but can still remain hopeful. This is what truly pushes Hayes forward and makes it so her name needs to be amongst the conversation when we talk about people who are going to be part of the next generation of film actors to push the art of acting forward, especially considering Hayes is only 19 years old. As for other highlights, we have just the balance of showing Vicaria's neighborhood as a loving community, but also making it clear it's a dangerous one. While drugs and gang violence plague Vicaria's neighborhood, at the same time we're showing kids playing with water guns, adults acknowledging and greeting the kids, and there's a sense that everyone knows each other. Now, does that change things for the better? In some ways, but the Angry Black on the Monster at the very least tries to show all sides. It shows the beauty of a connected community, but also recognizes that when a community lacks certain resources, like places to address mental health and diverse opportunities for kids, teens, adults, and etc., it can lead way to substance abuse, gangs, and drug dealing. And this isn't to say the film really wants to dive into the ills of any urban area. It's not The Shy or something like that. But it does make clear that all areas have potential. It is just some areas have better investment than others. The next highlight is Chris's revival, and it's because with this being based off of Frankenstein's monster, you knew Chris, if he was going to come back, it would be imperfect. After all, he is one of Vicaria's first experiments come to life, and with him being dead potentially for weeks, it doesn't seem like she accounted for many things, be it the lack of circulation of oxygen to his brain, blood flow, all the things that would allow him to fully keep his memories, his sanity, and more. Yet, while there is a need to still applaud her success, then comes a reminder of all the issues Frankenstein monsters had and how that plays out in this film. For example, how does a being operate when stitched together with other human parts? Never mind, with a world not prepped for their existence, how are they meant to survive? And heck, we can't just get rid of the fact that Chris is a black guy with locks who can't really control his anger, so how is he supposed to thrive? How is he supposed to deal with a life that, even before he died, he was somewhat seen as a monster just for his size, his skin tone, and now he's at this new stage where bullets don't kill him. Most people can't harm him. They're scared of him because how he looks, and because of his anger, any sense of rejection makes him lash out. So the last highlight and topic is just how strong the supporting cast is. For whether you're talking about a small role like Jerome, who is a kid as interested in vicarious work as Jada is, or you're talking about Aisha, Donald, or aforementioned Jada, no character in this film feels added just for the sake to flesh out the neighborhood or expand how long this movie is. Each character is given a place and purpose, both in terms of vicarious story and having their own story outside of what she is going through. For example, Kango, a local drug dealer and seemingly the leader of the neighborhood gang, was allegedly involved in Chris's demise, which is his connection to Vicaria. But he is also a young man taking care of his grandmother, or maybe his mother, and it seems he is only in the game because it's a lucrative opportunity for him. Never mind when people like Donald are struggling, they don't have the time and resources to seek out a therapist, so they go to him to escape. And he makes it very clear that if there was more resources, like a mental health facility or something like that, he would be in a different job. Now, when Vicaria challenges him on this, he doesn't know what job that would be, but if you're not aware of opportunities, how can you pursue them? And I think that's sort of the point of his character. Because it's shown in the long run, he's not a bad guy. He's just someone that saw an easy way to make money, and he took it. And I would say the majority of characters operate in such a way you can easily see they have a story built for them. And I would even say Aisha. She's pregnant, often in or around the house, raising her mother's kids, but she is still a character who's shown to have so much life outside of what she can do or be for Vicaria. She's highly intelligent, and while biology may not be her strong suit, history, literature, being culturally aware, she's no slouch whatsoever. And I would even say, since we only get introduced to Chris when he gets shot and then his monster form, taking note of how Aisha is, you can understand what type of person Chris likely was. For if Aisha was heavily into black culture, reading Malcolm X's biography and making sure that Jada is aware of her alphabet and making sure that her little brother's aware of how things work in the world, you can assume that Chris was somebody who came correct as much as possible, because otherwise it's hard to imagine a woman like Aisha giving him the time of day. Overall, the angry black girl in her monster leaves you with so many conflicting feelings as you're confronted with precarious grief, her environment, and the trauma she causes by trying to revive her brother. Yet at the same time, as a sci-fi drama with horror elements, it presents to you something that is rarely, if ever, seen, since very few times, outside of maybe this Netflix movie called See You Yesterday, do we get to see black girls as the head of movies like this, or really in the head of any kind of movie at all that's not something very simplified.